Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of a REDTalk Live with CD from Analysis with a Crime, presented by DelphiDocs. I'm just going to give a couple seconds and wait for some people to start coming in. We're going to go over Ron Logan Search Warrant from March of 2017. I know because it's been 5.5 years since the search warrant, a lot of people probably haven't gone through that line by line, but it is beyond interesting to me. Very telling at possibly the divide that was occurring between the FBI agents that were at Delphi and, assisting. The key word there is assisting Carroll County and ISP. But when you read that search warrant, it seems like they heavily aimed at Ron. And some say the question of why. Well, like anything else, the girls were found on Ron's property. So he gave his detailed day. And what happens normally is, like any investigation, you're going to go back through that person's, alibi and every move that person made for the day. Two girls were murdered on his property. And when they went to his alibi, they found out he lied. So right there alone, that's key. Him lying to law enforcement, his alibi instantly crumbled when he was interviewed. And it just shows a lot about where this case went after, checking in on Ron's alibi to the 2019 presser of A New Direction. Very, very telling stuff. And I know a lot of people did not go through it because Ron passed away. And, some are saying it's 5.5 years old. What's in there? There's a lot in there. And we're gonna go over it line by line. I'm just gonna wait for more to come in. I think we have about 7 that are here already. And we're gonna go through this. Okay, everybody can hear me? Could somebody raise their hand like they have a question, just so I know you all could hear me? Can I get a hand raised? There we go. Okay, who's this here? Let me check who it is. Ed Deer, how are you? Good. Does anybody want to ask a question before we go? I'm going to invite you to speak. I want to just make sure I could hear you also. Simple Quarter, can you just come on for a second just so I can make sure we have solid audio? Just have to unmute your mic. If you could. I know you're busy, but if you could. Ed Deer, you have to unmute your mic if you could for a second. So when we go over the search warrant, right?
I figured it out. Sorry about that.
Hey, there you are. Okay, so you're hearing me clear, right? I just want to make sure that everybody could hear me.
Yes, and I'm glad you're feeling better.
Yes, thankfully, yes. Yeah, my house is all feeling better. Thank God.
Good.
I have to say, we had it. I guess it was January, the first bout, and now it was totally different symptoms. I actually felt like I had more of strep throat than COVID. I had the worst sore throat for 10 days with a raspy, dry cough, but it was just very painful. But thankfully, we're past it. We're better. We're good. We're on with our son. We're on with our summer, and we're having a good time. How are you doing? Is everything well?
Yep, it's good.
Good. Do you have any questions before we go?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start going over the search warrant. Anybody has any questions at any time as we're going, please just let me know, and we'll go from there. So Agent Nicole Robertson, right? She's the one that typed this up. And what I keep saying about Ron, I know a lot of you heard me already speaking about it, how when you're getting a search warrant and you're presenting it to a judge to get signed, yes, you want to be detailed. You want to be detailed about the house you're going into, where the garage is located. Is it connected garage? Is it separated, separate structure? Very detailed. Shutters. Where things are located. The garage is on the west side. It's on the east side of the home. So many things you want detailed in that search warrant. And then it comes to, the evidentiary value, where you want to present, facts that are going to help get it signed. That's just the way it goes. To me, this search warrant went well over what they really needed to get it signed. I mean, you're talking about geo pings. It's so in detailed as to what's in there. And the why, I feel, is after Ron's alibi crumbled, the agents that were working it, they felt strongly, okay, 2 girls on his property, the guy lied about his day, just the compounding things there made them feel this is our guy, and then we're going to go through that. But then you fast forward to 2019 and how the age totally changes. New direction. We're going in a new direction, shifting gears, to me, aimed at one person in Peru, not named Keegan, same house. They reside in the same house. That's where the focus was starting to go. So what was there? I mean, you could say pressure from the FBI as to who they were leaning at. Well, I wouldn't call it just pressure. It's when you're a local police department and you don't deal with murders every day, I think they didn't have a murder for 10 years or 15 years. This was the first double murder, young girls, brutal crime. Let's think about the first presser. Everybody said, and I went through it many times, about Sheriff Tobe and Leslie and how reaction was at the first presser. And people were saying the guy was guilty. No, he just came from the crime scene and saw something that he has probably never seen before. A violent double murder in his jurisdiction, and he's thinking, why? But he's also sitting there and everything is replaying to him as to what he saw. It's all playing it. He couldn't even speak. They were trying to speak for him, and the couple things he had to correct, he had a hard time even addressing it. So to me, it was very telling as to what the cause of the murders were, what the weapon was. Yes, any 2 children being murdered is a horrifying crime scene, but there are things that goes to a different level. It's like the violence ladder. Me and Simple Quarter, who's an attorney, we've been talking about, and I've been explaining how career violent criminals, they start off, with low-level crimes. They start off as the, peeping Tom, the little touchy-feely guy. And as their career in crime grows and the violence grows, then there was the touching. Tony Klein had the touching incident through the window, where he touched the girl. He was, a teenager at that time. Then the physical attack he had on the female, the beating of the stepson, the stalking of the woman's 10-year-old child in his car with another person in the car with him. That's how blatant this man was. That the violence, I say it all the time, it comes from one place in that home, and it's not from Keegan. Keegan was fine living his disturbed life of locking himself in a room and, yes, disturbing acts that he committed, but he met the one girl in the park, right? And me and Cryptex have gone back and forth with this, and I was right when I said, yes, threat came about using a knife because the girl brought her friend with her, but it wasn't right at the park that he threatened her. He threatened her through messaging afterwards. So again, the violence was coming from somewhere else in that home. The threat of using a knife and slicing that girl's throat was sent in a message from Anthony Schatz. And I don't believe it was from Keegan. Because if he was that upset, he was right there. He did nothing. The girl left with her friend. But the threat came afterwards. So violence comes from one place in that home. It isn't from Keegan. Keegan speaks of the fear of how violent his father was. So there's just many telling things, and I've said it since day one of Keegan's info being put out there. The night, I guess it was that night, Anthony Schatz, by the morning, the media already had his name. I took a deep dive, looked at his dad, went into the criminal history, saw what was there, saw he was, how you could be friends with people on Facebook or you could like their page. The amount of young females that man was following was disturbing. And it just shows, and now you see where local law enforcement has been aiming, and it's not at Ron. Oh, and let's go over what's it, Jennifer. Let me go to Twitter. Jennifer Coffindaffer, the retired agent, FBI agent, who tweeted that out earlier about, I guess it was maybe yesterday or today, when she put out her opinion, feeling that it was Ron Logan. How much does she know about the case? Is she saying that from the tunnel vision of the other agents, like Nicole Robertson? Is she friends with her? I mean, let's think about law enforcement. Nobody's spoken out giving any information. And now you have an FBI agent, retired, putting out that it's her opinion it's Ron Logan. And then she quickly deleted the tweet. Jennifer Coffindaffer. She's been on News Nation many times since Gabby Petito. She even showed up at the Laundrie's home and did an interview with Brian Enton from News Nation while the Gabby Petito case was evolving and before they found her body. I don't know how much weight I take it with, because nobody's talked about this case that was been on law enforcement for 5.5 years. And now you have this woman who, I'm positive she wasn't on the case, because you're retired and you're putting a statement out there. If it's a case you worked, you're going to get some crap from people for doing that. So before we go line by line on the search warrant, does anybody have any questions? You just raise your hand and you just would unmute your mic if you have a question. Anybody? I see any hands? I think there's a message here. Let me see. Hi, CD. Thanks for doing this. Hello. Simple Code, yes, the phone pinging 2 times near the crime scene is very odd, but let's think about this. Is 5.5 years ago, right? Think about the Find My app if you're an iOS user, right? There's times where my kids, blah blah blah, we have their location. You want to know where your children are at all times. There's times where I know exactly where they are because I'm with them or something, and I'll just go on it just to look, because I've been very interested as to where the pings show compared to where you are. And sometimes they're not where there's the phone showing them 150, 200 yards away, 300 yards away, even blocks away, if we're not at a park, blocks away when they're right next to me. So I take it, there's give and take with the pings. And I'm not saying that he might not have, did he stumble upon it? We just don't know. We have no idea. But I'm sure he's been a lie detector test back then. And the new direction to me was that a divide between ISP and the task force with Carroll County going in their own direction away from where FBI was taking them. Because remember, FBI was on the search warrant at Keegan's house. They were there. They were there with ISP when Keegan's initial search warrant was on February 25th of 2017. And it was like within 24 hours, there was an agent that put out that there was nothing to that search warrant. It has nothing to do with the Delphi murders. I mean, look at where we are today and where it looks like it's going. Man, were they wrong? I mean, what happened? But it's just. So getting back to the search warrant and how overly detailed this is, going into the bodies and talking about how they were moved to be staged, but the amount of blood let's get one thing straight. The girls were not murdered elsewhere, okay, like in a barn or in another structure and brought to where they were laid to rest there. Where they were left by the killer or killers. Okay, the blood on the scene showed that that's where they passed. And I know, trigger warning to some. This is a real case. This is a double murder of children. This is not. There's some wackos that are on Reddit and on YouTube that are there to cause problems. But let's remember what we're here for. Let's remember these girls were brutally murdered, left and just thrown away. These wackos that are involving themselves and just here for the wrong reasons, just don't even listen to me. Go somewhere else. It's just not worth it. I don't have time for you. Nobody else has time for you. Go make your wacky videos and all your stuff. But here, we're here for facts. We stick to the facts. We go through the details. You know, I've been saying for years, no, I don't think they were strangled. To me, when you hear law enforcement, the haunt that Sergeant Riley talks about, 6 to 8 months when he watched the video and he didn't name which girl it was, but the fear that was in one of the girls, you know, it kept them up for 6 to 8 months. That's what this case was. That's how bad law enforcement wants this solved. That they are the people that were at that scene. They live with this every day now for 5.5 years. And I'll tell you right now, the ones that are working this case, they feel like they have failed the family and the girls. That's just how you feel until you get the person. And that actually keeps you hungry to keep working and to go back over things. Did I miss something? What are we missing? And you keep going, because at the end of the day, you want this solved. You want the persons in prison, possibly dealing with the death penalty in Indiana. You know, that's what you want. So let me just read a couple of stuff and read a couple of things, and we're going to go over it. Yeah, right in the beginning, just going over a basic search warrant, you're going to talk about the home, single family dwelling, 2-story, you know, where it's situated, what vehicle was there. You know, we know his white Ford, I believe it was F-250 was there. And then they go into the suspect. Suspect has been developed of a white male wearing a blue jacket with a heavy physical build, wearing a cap and blue jeans. Now, just hearing that's any man in America. You know, when you hear that description, blue jacket, you know, heavier physical build, wearing a cap and blue jeans, that could fit any age group. You know, it's just so many different people. You know, and I say that because what made the FBI go strong at a 76-year-old man at that time, 70, whatever age he was in his mid to late 70s when the murders occurred, to now being at, you know, the last one was what, 18 to 40 at the 2019 presser, and now it's totally deleted, which is even weirder. That just shows you where their heads are at. It's just, were they guided? Not that they were guided in the wrong direction, but were they heavily guided to aim towards Ron because of his alibi going bust? Highly possible. And to me, 2 years plus were wasted because of it. You know, it was 26 months later when the April 2019 presser comes and they're going in the new direction. So we're 2 years and 2 months lost because of where they were aiming. Were they solely aiming in that direction? I mean, probably. I mean, Keegan was left alone, and let's touch base on that, because a lot of questions still are out there over Keegan and why he wasn't charged. The murders took place in Carroll County. He resides in Peru, which is Miami County, right? The search warrants were most likely out of Carroll County. That's where you're getting them signed. You're not getting it signed in Peru. The case is out of Carroll County. They never forwarded the information that were taken from the devices to the Peru, Miami County district attorney for prosecution. They just, total disaster, but it wasn't done intentionally. It just never got forwarded. That's issue, yeah. But that's why ISP came out the night of Anthony shot stuff, and they had that little paragraph, how nobody did it intentional, but they have to do better next time. They just it was never forwarded to the proper district attorney's office for prosecution. It's not this big, oh yeah, they let Keegan stay out for years to stalk more children. Come on. It's just that's bananas. It's a banana thing to say. A total law enforcement drop of the ball. Could have had something to do with Robert Ives retiring and what's his name stepping in. That could be it, where it just never got forwarded. Disaster, but it wasn't done intentional. So then they go into the development of this suspect was made by a 43-second video taken on Liberty German's phone, where the suspect follows the victims as they are walking on the Monon High Bridge Trail. Near the end of the video, The suspect speaks to the victim saying, "Down the hill." It sounds as though he is directing the victims to leave the trail they were on and enter the wooded area below, which we know is a very steep hill down. And then we know 2:07 p.m. was the picture we all have in our heads of Libby taking the picture of Abby on the bridge. 6 minutes later, 2:13 p.m., that's where the bridge guy closes in and the abduction takes place. You know, that was his goal. He was closing in. He was ready to do what he had to do in his head. It's terrible when you think about it, but that's exactly what happened. That's how fast an abduction occurs. You know, I know we've spoken on, I think the last one or the first one we spoke on just a little briefly of Evansdale and that abduction, how in Simple Quarter, we spoke about it at length, at how, you know, their bikes were just there, you know, where they weren't. Their bikes were there, and the one girl's pocketbook was up on the, you know, little top of the fence, like it was just thrown. You know, why was it thrown? Maybe they thought a phone was in there, they could be tracked. Who knows? But that's for another day. So what I keep saying is how overboard this search warrant went, because to me, FBI felt after his alibi crumbled, this is our guy, and most of this search warrant affidavit would have been a copy and paste to an arrest affidavit for him. That's how detailed this is. So this is a trigger warning, because this is very in depth at what is in here, and you know, if you can't handle going into detail about the murders, please don't listen. I don't want anybody, you know, hearing things that they don't want to hear. So on February 14th at 12:17 p.m., victims Liberty German and Abigail Williams were found dead with wounds caused by a sharp weapon on the property owned by Ronald Logan. A large amount of blood was lost by the victims at the crime scene. Because of the nature of the victim's wounds, it is nearly certain the perpetrator of this crime would have gotten blood on his person and clothing. The location of the crime scene is approximately 1,400 feet from Logan's residence. So when you think about that, that's a pretty long distance. It's almost 5 football fields away. So I mean, he has a vast property. He's got a large property, and that's also Simple Quarter. And I was talking about how, remember Ron Logan? You have the creek there. Ron Logan owned, his property was amazing hunting grounds. So let's rewind to the conversation that they had with Tony Klein's stepson, and how he spoke about he used to fish in there often with Tony Klein, and possibly Tony Klein's father was there quite a few times. So they, you know, Tony Klein knew the land. I'm sure he possibly, I've said many times, he possibly has hunted on Ron Logan's land. That's not a fact, but Ron Logan had a select few people he allowed to hunt his land. He allowed them to hunt there, and there were a few groups that he allowed to hunt there. It wasn't open season, but he allowed certain people to hunt his land. Could Tony F. Klein have hunted there? It is possible. You know, the killer knew this land. The killer selected the murder site because of the way it sunk in. It had a natural way of hiding from most of the sides what was occurring. To murder 2 girls in broad daylight, it takes a lot to do that, mentally, psychologically. You know, not many people could do just. There's people that murder people every day. To do what this persons did, it takes. You have to plan this out. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, just walked onto the bridge and there and just walked away. No, he knew where. I believe he knew where he was going. He knew where he was taking them. That's why the down the hill was said, because that's where he wanted them to start making their way to. You know, let's head down the hill. Let's, you know, that's where we're going. So that goes into Logan. Logan's 77-year-old male. Logan's physical build is consistent with that of the male suspect videoed by Liberty German on the Moton High Bridge Trail. I disagree with Ron Logan being the guy on the bridge, simply because if you watch Ron Logan walk and you watch Bridge Guy walk, they have a total, yes, I know Bridge Guy is walking on a bridge, but the way they walk is the way they walk. yes, you're going to walk more gingerly. You're going to be careful on a bridge like that. But at the same time, with the way your leg kicks and moves, that's just the way it goes. And to me, it's a totally different walk than Bridge Guy. Not even the same realm. And then it says, his voice is not inconsistent with that of the person in the video. So it's like every little piece they're putting there is, Ron could fit this. I don't think Bridge Guy sounds anything like Ron. That's my opinion. You could feel differently, but it just doesn't to me. Especially when you know what the most natural Ron Logan voice that you're going to hear is if you listen to when he was taped by the female, and you have all of nature in the background, and you have noises. They're walking. There's wind. That's what you're getting on that 43-second clip. You're getting real nature in the background, not somebody in a police station say, "Guys down the hill." You need that. You need that distortion in a sense. Then we go into, on February 14th at 9:20 a.m., Logan contacted his cousin, David Nulf. Logan asked Nulf to tell the police that Nulf came to Logan's home between 2 and 2:30 p.m. on the 13th to pick Logan up. Logan further told Nulf to say that Nulf drove Logan to an aquarium store in Lafayette. Logan told Nulf to say they returned home to Logan's house between 5 and 5:30 p.m. On February 14th, while requesting consent to search Logan's property, a law enforcement officer advised Logan that LEOs would not search his home unless evidence led LEOs to Logan's house. In that meeting, Logan told the LEO that he did not think evidence would lead them to that, but said, "I don't know." So does that sound suspicious to you? The guy, that was on the 14th. They're interviewing him most likely after the girls are found. And now he's questioning himself. Shit, I don't know. Could evidence lead up, somewhere else on the property closer to my house? I don't take that as him saying like, "Oh, I don't know if there's blood in my home." Do you know what I'm saying? That's why when I read that, and believe me, I'm retired law enforcement. I'm a pro law enforcement person. But when I read this, to me, it's like, wow, this really was pushed. This is showing that, Ron's their guy. So a receipt from Aquarian World with a checkout time of 5:21 was found in Logan's home on March 6, 2017 during a probation violation search. Okay, so that's 5:21. Remember back that he told Nulf to tell him that they went at between 2 and 2:30, that they were picked up to go to the aquarium store. So there's a 3-hour and 20-minute difference between when he wanted Nulf to say they went to when the receipt is from. What could that mean? Well, why would Ron want an alibi? There's many reasons. I mean, is it horrible that he, asked somebody to cover and make up a story? Yeah, it is. At the end of the day, what was he feeling? Was he feeling like, man, this is on my property, this is going to be put on me? Like, we don't know what he was thinking. But yes, it is a red flag to lie and get an alibi who crumbled instantly when he was interviewed. Yeah, there's something to that. What is the reason for it? And then there's some saying, well, could Ron have, while all this was going on and he knew, could Ron have stumbled upon the girls? We don't know. We have no idea. But let's be honest. If Ron did stumble upon the girls and his DNA was found near them, on them, whatever, I think Ron would have been charged. That's just the way it is. The way FBI was onto him, if he had somewhat of his DNA anywhere near those girls, he most likely would have been charged. And that goes back to, let's go to Robert Ives. I don't love what Robert Ives has said from the beginning on this case, because he's not a cop. He's not an investigator. He didn't do, yes, he's a prosecutor. But this crime, when he talks about it and how odd it was, he didn't really see that many murder scenes to prosecute. So getting to one thing he did say was, we never felt that we were close enough to prosecute anybody, in not so many words. So he just was saying that we didn't have enough to prosecute anybody while he was there until he, retired from his post as the district attorney. which to me is pretty telling because they were very hard on Ron, the FBI, and I feel it was a lot of tunnel vision, and it could have cost this investigation time, 26 months of time, and that's a lot of time to be, and I'm not saying that the guys on the task force, girls, whoever's working the case, wasn't investigating other things. That's not what I'm saying, but when a main focus is on, A over here being Ron Logan, Keegan stuff was just on the back burner. It just wasn't at the forefront, and I really think that that's what led to the 2019 presser, and also how much emotion that Doug Carter had. His emotion was there. It was there. It was profound. Yes, he went out. He's an emotional guy. You have that many cameras on you. Also, you're going to either shut down, or you're going to either really shut down, or you're going to appear like somebody, with ADHD. His facial expressions. He does things with his mouth that are kind of strange that make me laugh. But I think Doug Carter is a great guy. I think, ISP has a good guy above them, and the guys under him, girls under him, they love working for the guy. Let me get back to the 14th. Okay, so about the whole thing that he didn't know if anything would lead to his house. I think that was more or less him saying, I don't know. The girls were found here. I don't know. I think there's something they're not saying, but that's unknown. Prior Kelly Fowler says TK completely has the background for committing Delphi crimes. Yes, he does. Violence came from one person in that home. To me, it's not Keegan. He is not the violence. It's elsewhere. Hold on, I'm just reading what I want to talk about next here. So on March 7th, 2017, Nulf, this is the guy who he was asked to cover, was interviewed by LEO. Nulf told the LEO that he was with Logan on Monday, February 13th, 2017, and that Nulf drove Logan to the aquarium store in Lafayette. On March 9th, 2017, Nulf was interviewed by another LEO regarding the trip to the aquarium, where they want to go a little further into an interview with him. Nulf told the LEO that he had lied when he was interviewed on the 7th, so that was 2 days before he lied. He probably couldn't deal with it. Who knows if he called back and said he wants to talk to the investigators again? Because maybe, he just couldn't live with lying for Ron. He's like, you know what? I got to tell you something. Can you have somebody come by? And then he gave it up. So he said, Nulf told the LEO that he lied when he was interviewed on the 7th at Logan's request. So he's telling that, Ron Logan asked me to lie. Nulf knows that Logan has driven his vehicle while on probation and was prohibited from doing so. Nulf also said that Logan did not ask him to lie for Logan when Logan drove to the transfer station earlier in the day by himself. So I don't think that, I think what they're trying to say is, okay, Ron did something wrong that day by driving when he's not supposed to the transfer station, but when he wanted an alibi was for the time of the aquarium. That, knowing that the girls at 2:13 p.m. were approached by Bridge Guy, I don't think they knew that at the time, but who knows what was known. It's just later in the day, he wanted an alibi for what was going on. Once he knew the girls were missing, then finds out a day later they were murdered on his property. I mean, if anybody watched the video of Ron describing to the reporter, I forget her name, but when he was standing there and he was talking about how he's, his voice cracks and he says, my children used to play here, but that was a different time. That was long ago. He's just basically saying that the world has changed. 2 girls were murdered here. This is a changed world we live in. And I think any of us can attest to that. I grew up in the 80s, and I used to remember my father, it was like 6:30 at night. My father would head down and he'd scream for me. I was at the park down the road from my house. And it's like, Chris, come home for dinner. And then that's it. Nowadays, I mean, you have to watch your kids at every turn. Doesn't really matter what age they are. Look at Kylie Rodney. And if we want to do a Red Talk on Kylie Rodney in the comments, please let me know, because we could do that later we could do that maybe early next week, because that's another case that really bothers me. And it's not just the girl, Sammy, who's been talking. There's just a lot of things that bother me about that case. And I briefly, what I'll say is the car's missing, right? Law enforcement, even in posted spots, a lot of places, police cars, buildings, they have license plate readers. One thing I want asked to the when they have those community meetings, I would love for somebody to ask them about Kylie Rodney. Has her vehicle come up on any license plate reader anywhere? Because that car is being looked for. Has it since 6 o'clock, 6:15, when she was in that store that we have the video footage from, until today? Has that vehicle popped on any license plate readers? It's a serious question, because that'll tell you if it moved anywhere. I don't even know if that vehicle was at the campground, but I don't want to go on a different case. So that's something we could go into next week if you'd like to. Simple Quarter, what do you mean by that? Really says a lot, his behavior. Are we talking about Ron, or are we talking about TK? Let me know. Okay, so let's go back to the friend Nulf. Nulf explained that Logan has never asked him to lie for him in the past. He knows that Logan has driven his vehicle while on probation and is prohibited from doing so. Nulf also said that Logan did not ask him to lie for Logan when he drove to the transfer station all that day. I said that part. So basically, they're trying to fit the narrative that Ron breaks the law all the time when he drives his car, when he's not supposed to, but he's never asked him to lie about that. Does anybody here think that matters? Is that on the same wavelength that Ron lied, that Ron drove his car and didn't ask for an alibi? Ron had 2 girls murdered on his property. Yes, red flag him having an alibi and asking the guy to cover, but you're talking about bread and milk. Bread's on one side, milk's on. It's not in the same realm. Not in the same realm. So then he's interviewed again on the 12th. So he's interviewed on the 7th, the 9th, then on the 12th. So this is 3 interviews he has in under a week, right? The second one could have been by him. He could have had too much guilt with on the 7th lying to law enforcement for Ron, that he might have asked them to talk on the 9th. But then again on the 12th. Nulf explained in the interview to LEO that Logan called him on the morning of February 14th and asked him to provide the alibi for Logan's drive to the aquarium in Lafayette. Now, does anybody follow what could be a little weird in that part that fits the law enforcement narrative for the search warrant? Morning, right? Called him on the morning of February 14th, because the girls were found around 12:15. There's no state. Let's see. Phone call was made. Yeah. They're saying that the phone call was made prior to Elio's discovery of the bodies. Nothing is in here evidence-wise showing that, though. And I'm not saying that it couldn't been. It could have been done prior to the girls' bodies being found. But that's the way it's written. To me, it's just, this is 100% Ron's our guy. Throw it all in there. Get everything in there. Whatever it is, put it in there. Yes, you want to be factual getting a search warrant, but to me, this could have turned into a copy and paste from a search warrant to an arrest affidavit for a double murder against Ron. Nulf said he thought so they show the picture of Bridge Guy to Nulf. Nulf says he thought the photograph of the male that was released by the media of the man on the bridge looked like Logan. Okay, all right, but. So they said, here's the picture. Could this be Ron Logan? Could it be, anybody else? Do you think that, well, it could look like him. I mean, let's all look at that of the walk again. Does that look like Ron Logan to you? To me, it doesn't. And I know there's a channel out there on YouTube that has been saying it's Ron for 3 years with, exploiting the photo, and to me it looks like a butterfly when they start. It's just wacky stuff they're doing. That video is horrible. Amazing that Libby did it. Same time, it's horrible at what you're able to see. Somebody has a question. Ed Deer, come on up and ask your question. You declined. Do you want to do it again? Do you have a question? Does anybody have a question? You can raise your hand. Come on, ask a question. Whenever you're ready, just unmute your mic.
I tried to hit accept, but it wouldn't let me. So anyway,
okay.
My question is this. Okay, so they know exactly where Ron's phone pinged, but they say Libby's phone pinged all over town.
Yes.
Because of the same tower. So how do they know where exactly his pinged at?
They remember that back then there was only 2 towers that they had.
Right.
So the triangulation is off a little bit. The ping all over town thing, it's such a bizarre statement, and then you have these definitive pings, the geotags of Ron's phone. But as I said before, even today, 5.5 years later, the Find My is a great app for iOS users, and with your kids and stuff, you're watching. It's not always precise, and I'm not talking about once a month. It's not
well, that's
precise.
why I'm saying
Daily,
it just seemed weird that they're like, oh, his phone was right there where the girls were. Well, how they know that? That's all.
I told, and that's the point I'm getting to, is that every part of this search warrant I'm telling you, it could have been copy and pasted to an arrest affidavit, and we're 5 years later, that never came, right? No arrest warrant for Ron Logan, but it did what this being released because of Ron's death shows is a lot of information that they might not, that they didn't need to put in there about the bodies of the girls. There's just so many items that don't need to be in the search warrant. Yes, the girls were located on his property. That's enough. You know what I'm saying? It's just everything is so overboard with this that it makes me scratch my head, because I know for a fact we would have never written one up like this. It's not necessary to get the search warrant. It's so overly done. It's crazy to me. It really is. Okay, so let's get back here, right? So law enforcement officers learned that Logan had driven on February 13th to the transfer station in Delphi, Indiana, to drop off trash. Video from the transfer station shows Logan driving a white Ford pickup truck between 11:27 and 11:32 a.m. So there's a 5-minute window of him driving in. Video from the transfer station is off by 26 minutes. I mean, I don't know. I guess they were able to, they when they programmed it, they put, it didn't automatically put the time, so they manually did it. And I guess over the years, it became 26 minutes, behind? No, it just says off by 26 minutes. So it doesn't say if it's behind or ahead. It just says it's off by that. But then it is slower 26 minutes, because it was 11:53 to 11:58 real time of when he was there. Confusing, but he was there before 12 o'clock midday on the 13th, dropping off trash. 2 hours and 15 minutes around there prior to Bridge Guy approaching the girls for the abduction. So Logan did not ask Nulf to provide an alibi for his drive to the transfer station. Logan only asked Nulf to provide an alibi for the trip that would have occurred at the time of the abduction. So they're basically, Ron went at 5 o'clock, but Ron wanted his alibi to say between 2 and 2:30 when the girls were abducted on the bridge. That's the time he wanted his alibi to be covered. He wanted his cover to be, he was nowhere near his property between 2 and 2:30 p.m. Is that suspect? Yeah, it is. And I'm not discrediting that. It is. The time does fit. But again, I don't believe it was Ron Logan. That's my opinion. I know there's people out there that still believe it's him. 5.5 years went by. The guy was never charged. It tells me that his DNA was not at the scene. Could it have been on something? I don't know. I'm not even going to go there with the DNA thing, because I believe if his DNA was near those girls, he would have been charged. So on March 8th, I'm trying to think. I believe this lady's name might be redacted, so I don't know if I should put that out there. So a female was interviewed on March 8th, and I'm not going to say her name. And I think it's just for what comes up, later on, because it was a physically abusive relationship possibly. And if it's out there, it's out there. I'm just not going to say her name. I'm just going to call her Kay. So a female named Kay was interviewed on March 8th, 2017. So remember, the alibi enough was on the 7th, the 9th, and the 12th. So the day in between, they speak with this female. She says that she met Logan about 7 or 8 years ago. She was in a relationship with him for a couple months and would stay with him in his home on the weekends. She left Ron Logan after he became physically abusive. During her interview, Kay explained that Logan continued to stalk and harass her even after the breakup. During the relationship, Logan had dragged her out of the car by her hair. She still today fears Logan. So, in March of 2017, she still had fear for him. She's had no contact with him for approximately 2 years. So around 2015, there's been no contact with Ron after 2015. She told the interviewers that Logan had told her in the past that he could kill her and no one would find her body. Now, I don't know much about her. I'm not discrediting her. I'm sure what she's saying is true. Ron pulled her out of the car by her hair. Was there a lot of drinking going on? We have no idea. There's been things said about Ron over his life that, I don't know. It is what it is. The man's passed away. I'm not going to, I'm going to go off what she's saying. During her interview in March 8th of 2017, she said that she knew Logan carried a gun everywhere he went. She knew that Logan would carry a gun in a fanny pack. She described Logan's fanny pack as one made out of a nice material. Okay, is that leather? What is a nice material? When you read that, let's think about this for a second, right? What is that? What are they trying to say with that paragraph, right? Remember, bridge guy walking, right? He's got something on his right side. Could it be a fanny pack? Could it be, to me, and I'm not saying 100%, just a possible opinion of mine is it a hatchet holster where the hatchet aims backwards? That's possible too. So it seems like they're going with, could it have been a fanny pack? And they're getting her to say, listen, you have your right, you have a firearm license. You're allowed to carry your gun, wherever you want. So, but they're just trying to say that Ron did have his license. He did carry his gun everywhere he went, and he sometimes would carry it in a nice materialed fanny pack. Again, everything that's in here, they're fitting a narrative where the aim here was for a search warrant, of the property and so on. The aim was, this is our guy, and what was going to follow this was an arrest affidavit. That's my opinion, but I think anybody active, retired law enforcement, an attorney, a defense attorney, they would probably tell you the same thing. I don't think I'm going off on a limb saying that. Just checking if any new comments came in. I'm simple quarter. I'm not saying that anything is not factual inside this. All I'm saying is that everything is it's factual, but it's to the extreme. Just like this fanny pack thing. It's just fitting for what they thought was going to come later. That's just what I'm taking it on. Oh, TK is changing things, picture and dates on to cover. Yeah, no, electronic ad said, I thought he asked him to cover because Logan had no license and wasn't supposed to drive because of a couple of drunks driving incident. He wasn't supposed to drive. But what they're making it sound, that's not what they're making it sound like. They're showing that Ron, he broke the law all the time by driving, never asking for an alibi when he would break the law driving. The alibi he asked for to cover for him was the aquarium, the 2 to 2:30. He was not in his house. That's where they're going with that. not about his, all the other instances of him driving. Okay. So here we are. Okay, so now they ask they ask Kay about the picture of the man on the bridge. So she told Elios when she first saw the photograph of the man on the bridge, she thought the police were looking for Logan because she thought the photograph was Logan. She did not initially realize that the photograph was that of the suspect. Now, is she taking that as knowing his properties right there? There's a man, because remember, when they first put it out, they were basically saying, does anybody know who this is? This person might have seen something that can help us. We need to talk to him. Remember, he wasn't put out immediately as a suspect. It was more or less, we need to talk to this guy. He was located on the bridge. They didn't say where the picture came from. Some people were speculating, it had to be a trail camera. I believe that's why so many people were stuck on this trail camera. And to this day, they still don't believe that Libby, knowing something was severely wrong, started recording this person. They still today, there's wacky things said every day on YouTube and whoever knows where else that, it's a plant. They planted the video and the audio. It was even the picture on Snapchat was taken days before. Wacky theory. There's no reason for law enforcement to lie. It was posted on, February 13th at 2:07 p.m. The picture of Libby on the bridge. They're saying that there's this huge conspiracy theory that the family did this. The family did not, make this whole story of what happened days before. It's ridiculous. Let the family try and move on, not to move on without. Let them try and recover enough to live without their grandchild, sister. Let them be. It's disturbing in how many people attack that family. It's gross. So that was it. So they basically said to her that, I thought you were looking for Ron Logan. Now, we don't know what else was said there. That's the piece. The pieces they wanted us to know is Ron is physically abusive. So he is somebody who is violent and who is able to commit murder. That's what they wanted in there. That's how you take that whole, he pulled me out of the car by my hair. They want to show he's physically able to commit murder. They wanted to show that possibly could be a fanny pack, and Ron Logan carried a nice fanny pack that would carry his gun in it. 2, and 3, that could be Ron Logan on the bridge in her words. So if you don't see how much this makes sense, that how tunnel vision really was setting in my opinion, as the FBI had their guy. That's him. It's him. It's Ron Logan. Keegan's search warrant on the 25th within 24 hours. Not Keegan, not him. They just said the search warrant in Peru. We didn't find anything, to do with the Delphi murders, which is ridiculous. Ridiculous how they didn't even have the devices downloaded, and they're already discrediting. Probably because when they interviewed Keegan, they saw him. They're realizing. To me, they realize this guy is incapable of committing these murders. Why? In my opinion, he's not the violence. He is not the violence. The violence is elsewhere in that home. So now a call placed using Logan's cell phone produced cell tower data that shows Logan's cell phone appears to be in or around his property on February 13th at 2:09 p.m. Now, listen to these words, because this is so important to me as to all the pings and everything else that they put in here. Although his exact location cannot be confirmed, the tower data shows that Logan's cell phone was in the Delphi area, in the area of the Monon High Bridge Trail. I mean, want me to read that again? The first sentence says, it shows Logan's cell phone appears to be in or around his property. Okay, that's what they're saying. It shows him in or around his property. But then they go and say in the same sentence, the tower data shows that Logan's cell phone was in the Delphi area, in the area of the Monon High Bridge. How the hell is that possible? How could he be within his property, but also being in the area of Monon High Bridge? Is that how large, the ping was? Is that, to me, that shows right there that the pings are inaccurate. They don't play for me. They don't fit what they're trying to say for me. And if you've heard me since the first time you heard me, I have been pro law enforcement on this case since day one, till I saw this search warrant. And to me, it's a head scratch. That sentence doesn't make any sense. How could Ron Logan be within his property limits, but then being within the Monon High Bridge? Impossible. It's impossible. So an analysis of Logan's cell phone data revealed a text message sent from his phone 7:56 p.m. on February 13th. The initial exam of this analysis indicates Logan's phone was likely outside of his residence and in the proximity of where LG and AW's bodies were located. Okay. Well, what did the text message say? Who was it to? What's the data? What did the text? Why isn't that included? Now that's where that piece ends. So they're saying that he sent a text message out at 7:56 p.m. on the 13th. Not saying what was in it. I'm sure they have every text. They probably got his phone, downloaded it, blah, blah, blah. But it was in the proximity of where the girls were found. So is anybody not seeing what I'm saying? That there's a narrative that's being fit right in front of us when we're reading this? But this went to a judge and was instantly signed. All of this didn't need to be there. The alibi alone, okay, between 2 and 2:30 p.m., to me, is enough to get that search warrant signed. The girls were found on his property on February 13th between 2 and 2:30 p.m. He wanted an alibi to lie for him, saying that he was driven to the aquarium then when he wasn't. So yeah, other pieces could be put in just to add on, add on the strength of getting the search warrant signed, but it didn't need to be written up this way. To me, it was, this is our guy, put it all in there, and they felt they were going to get the search warrant, get in his house, get his stuff, and they were going to have an arrest warrant for him. Maybe the murder weapon would have been recovered. It goes too far for me. It goes way too far. So Logan met with Elios on or about February 17th, 2017. While they were on his property, Logan was physically able to get up and down the hill from his home to the crime scene. Yeah, he could walk. For his age, he's pretty fit for his age. Okay, he could walk up. He went to the property. He went to the crime scene with the HLN. And he was near the crime scene when he was talking to another reporter. So, okay, they're just, I'm telling you, to me, this is like shock value. Like it's overkill. It's beyond overkill. So they're saying that even though his age, he is able to get up and down the hill and make it to the crime scene. But when you're committing a crime like this, the adrenaline that's going through you, this is a 77-year-old man abducting 2 children and walking them to their death, to their kill site. And Libby's shoe falling off, in the creek. Was there a breakaway at one point where, the other one was grabbed and said, come back here or else? We don't know. That could be what have happened. And I don't think a man of this age alone could have done this. I just don't. And I don't believe it's him. But I just want to, my point of this Red Talk is to go over this search warrant and just show how this search warrant and the way it was leaning could have been the cause for 26 months of this investigation to be not wasted. I'm sure other things were being followed up, but the tunnel vision was on one guy, and that was Ron Logan. And I'm not saying that was the Carroll County Task Force along with ISP. I feel that was the FBI, and there was a lot of the weight that could come from the weight that could have been coming from the FBI on this case could have really, just slowed things down. So Logan met with, I said that. Okay. On March 14th, 2017, Logan's former housemate, now this is a separate female, and we're just going to call her A, was interviewed. So now this is 6 days after the woman K was interviewed. This is the woman A. A resided with Logan from about September 2016. So, give or take within a year or less of the other female. So that was 2015. Now this is September 2016 through December. So 3 months. This A female was in a sexual relationship with Logan on and off for approximately 3 years. Okay, so she lived with him for 3 months, but there was a relationship that was going on for 3 years that was definitely carrying on between the other female. If we go back 3 years, you're at 2013. The other female was still involved at that point. During the interview, Wright said when she first learned that AW and LG were missing, when she was first learned that AW and LG were missing and then found dead near Logan's home, her initial thought was Logan was involved. That was her initial thought. Because, I mean, to me, yeah, okay, they were found on the property, A said in her interview that she feared Logan and even previously told her baby's father if she ever ended up dead, Logan did. Now, we don't know everything that, could he have been physically abusive to the people that were, the females in his life? It's possible. I don't know for a fact. All I'm just saying is, and I'm not discrediting these women, this probably did happen. But what I'm just trying to show is that this search warrant was adding extra stuff into here to just compile, not even just for the search warrant, but for what was coming next. So A explained in an interview that Logan had been violent in the past. July 4th of 2016, while at his home, he punched her in the face, knocking her down. She explained that she was drinking, but Logan was completely sober during the incident. So she was drinking heavily, he was sober, and he punched her in the face. Also explained that Logan was angry with her because she was disrespecting him while in his home. So we have no idea what all I'm saying is that you're having these women who's staying with you on the weekends. Now, this is two women that were within the same time frame of who's in and out. We don't know what the hell is going on in this household. And I'm not discrediting anything that I believe that this probably did happen with the hair pulling and the punching in the face, but we don't know what the dynamics were. Like, was it abusive all over, or was it just him? And I'm not sticking up for him. I have no idea. I'm just saying, what else could have been there, Hold on 1 second. I just didn't text, hold on. One sec. Okay. So then that's the end of the 1 second. I'm sorry. I got to just answer 1 second. I just had to answer a call. Okay, so that was the end. So that was the end of the interview with her that they put in there. We have no idea what else was said, but they're just fitting the narrative of where they were going. And again, not discrediting them. I believe that that's most likely what was happening. There, we don't know what the dynamics were. It sounds like what was going on in Ron's house, volatile. There were volatile situations that were going on there. Okay, so now this goes to on February 13th, Liberty German's family began searching the area of the trail where Liberty and Abby were initially dropped off, beginning shortly after 3 p.m. LG's family, Liberty German's family, and other community members joined the search shortly thereafter. Carroll County Sheriff's Office was notified at 5:30 p.m. LG and AW were missing, so Liberty and Abigail were missing. Once the search for Liberty and Abby began, no one reported seeing any person matching the description of the male on the bridge. So they're basically said. So that paragraph is basically saying that what time Carroll County Sheriff's got there, and that nobody around the area fit the description of bridge guy, and that's them looking back at the day. Because as of them getting there and the girl's missing, they had no idea that that Libby recorded him. The FBI has established a database for the collection and organization of tips provided by the public in this case. A search of the database has revealed 15 tip-ins, which citizens, both known and anonymous, attributed the crime to Logan for various reasons. So we know that there's been like 40-something thousand tips. 15 of them say Ron did it. Some anonymous, and some citizens, and some could even be, who knows, YouTubers or whatnot. Who knows? But he was tipped in around 15 times. One is too many to be tipped in, but 15 out of 40,000. It just shows where we're going, as I keep saying. Based on the above aforementioned facts, Logan was in the area at the time of the crime occurred, and that he provided false information about his activities during the crime to law enforcement. He has a prior propensity for violence, the two women that they spoke to. Employed others to assist in deceiving law enforcement, and plotted an alibi for a crime that had not been discovered yet. We don't know. They say the morning of the 14th. To me, they should have showed that phone call. To me, that would have gave me, looking at it, a lot more weight to them saying that, he called Nuff before 12 p.m., before the girls were found at 12:15. It just doesn't show that, and they should have. They put everything else in here. Why not put it there? Why not add that in there? So here we go to information to be searched and things to be seized. I believe there's probable cause to believe that Ronald Logan has committed crime of murder, and evidence of that could be found on Ronald Logan's property. The affiant requests a warrant to search Ronald Logan's entire property and his address, and that goes into the description of the house: white two-story single-family dwelling, his detached garage. Remember we spoke about this at the beginning. Outbuildings and vehicle, a white Ford F-250, gives the VIN number, for evidence related to the murders of Libby and Abigail for the following property. Any and all evidence pertaining to murder, including clothing, forensic evidence, blood, seen and unseen, hair, bodily fluids, seen and unseen, fibers, weapons, including guns and cutting instruments, electronic devices used to produce the cellular signals detected by law enforcement in the area of the crime scene, animal hair samples. Now, what I will say is, that's what we're looking for. So they do have electronic devices that to produce the cellular signals detected by law enforcement in the area of the crime scene. So they do have devices that were showing in that area. That's probably from the the cell phone tower pings. Computers, computer equipment, digital storage devices, tapes, cassettes, cartridges, streaming tape, commercial software, computer disks, flash drives, disk drives, monitors, computer printers, modems, tape drives, disk application programs, data disks, system. So any kind of disk that could go into a computer and save things, computer software, hardware, tape systems and hard drive, and other computer-related operational equipment, digital cameras, scanners, in addition to computer photographs. Graphic interchange formats and/or photographs, undeveloped photograph. Wow, this is a tongue twister. Undeveloped photographic film, slides, or other visual depictions. So basically, a graphic interchange format equipment. So basically, they're saying anything that can record, anything that can store, etc. Anything that can take a picture. Why did they feel this crime scene might have been recorded? What made them feel that way? And I put this out a couple weeks ago. Actually, I think about over 2 months ago when it first came out. But was there possibly, and I have no idea, I'm just putting this out there, was there maybe, the tripod that holds a camera, was there tripod indentation near that crime scene? There's a reason they feel that this could have been photographed or recorded. And I'm not saying it was recorded when the murders occurred or if it was recorded right after. We have no idea. But what is the reason they feel that somebody would take a picture or record this crime scene? There has to be something that they named the amount of things that they did, and not saying digital storage devices, cameras. I mean, there's 60 things named there. Okay. Just wait 1 second. And then it goes into which has been used or may be used to store evidence of the crime, research ways to conceal a crime or destroy a crime scene, records, documents, writings, and correspondence containing information about the crime scene, or any individual involved in the crime, any and all tablets, phones, iPad devices, and any and all other electronic devices which may contain digital data, any and all computer data, including but not limited to photographs, videos, documents, emails, sound files, which may contain evidence of the violations of the criminal statutes listed at the beginning of this affidavit. So what is making them feel somebody took notes, wrote things? To me, it's just it's heavy. There's a reason they're saying that. You're always going to put in there about storage devices and stuff like that because people store things on everything. But does Ron fit the guy to you that seems like this tech savvy guy? Because he doesn't to me. Hold on 1 second. I'm actually looking for something important that I wanted to bring up. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to say anything? Raise your hand if you have a question. Oh, here's a question. Come on up, Simple Quarter. Just got to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Hey.
Hi.
Okay, so
how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing well.
All right, here's the thought that I had about this situation. I apologize. I've still got a bit of the COVID voice.
How you feeling? You doing okay?
Yeah, feeling a whole lot better.
Good.
I got the cough and stuff a little bit now.
Yeah, I hear it. I could hear the raspiness going on.
Yeah.
I hope you feel better.
Yeah, thanks. My question about this is, I don't know that he needs to necessarily be tech savvy. My thought here is someone who was a good friend of his, maybe TK, maybe even KK, came over and set this up where perhaps he could view the Dropbox.
Oh, that's highly possible. Yeah, that could highly be possible. Absolutely.
Because, we know from reading all the recent arrests that we've spoken about throughout the state that after this was learned about the Dropbox account and whatnot, we know that there were a number of arrests of people that, obviously they don't believe had anything to do with this, but they definitely were what.
Yes,
and I get
they were just like Keegan,
and all the other mixed up, but they were definitely breaking the law as it pertains to young children.
100%. Exactly. Yes.
So
100%.
we don't know that they weren't looking for this on Ron.
Yeah.
Thinking, you know what, maybe this is how he's tied in.
Yeah, it could be, that could be possible. It could be just a different angle that they were looking at.
Yeah.
But to you, when hearing everything, doesn't it seem like the FBI, they really thought Ron was their guy, though?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's so heavy.
I was reading this when it was released, and the first thing I thought was, yeah, this was early on. They thought this was the guy. I mean, they were ready to take that warrant and turn it in and say, now it becomes an arrest warrant. Because that's what they look like.
And everybody not knowing, Simple Quarter is an attorney. So that's coming from an attorney. So you got a law enforcement perspective right here, and now you're hearing an attorney say just about the same thing. That this search warrant affidavit, the way it's typed up, they were closing in on copy paste a lot of this into an arrest affidavit for him. 100%.
And that's the way it's usually done, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel.
No, you don't need to reinvent the wheel, but just how many different details they went into. It's just, I mean, what a contradictory statement. He was within his property, his cell phone showed, but then he was, in the same sentence, he was within Moline High Bridge. How the hell is that even possible?
Well, the only thing I can think of is because there were just the two towers to triangulate off of. And I don't know where, I think Gray Hughes put up at one point where those towers were.
Yeah. No, they wouldn't triangulate perfectly. They just wouldn't. That's just the way it is. And it came to funding too, right? I mean, it's funding with cell towers. You know, you need the tall ones. You know, zoning.
It's also zoning.
Yeah, you need the property.
And so they've got two. So it's very possible, depending on where they were located. I don't know if one was over at the CPS property and maybe another one was on the other side of town. Yeah. It's possible they were just bumping between with that property in between, and it was like a circular area.
Exactly. That's
my
field. Is that the circle was a lot larger than they're letting on here.
Right.
You know, they're making it. You know, they're making that bubble fit the narrative they want to give off.
And it may.
It could.
The whole thing.
Yeah, it could.
If your theory is correct about the possibility of them seeing maybe, trifold, tripod things.
Think about it, there has to be something there.
Oh, there was
that makes them feel there was either photos taken or a recording. You know,
my reason for raising my hand.
And could it be the stage? Could it be think of it this way? Could it be the staging? The way, the girls were killed there, and again, getting to the staging part, I feel they were only moved a couple feet to fit into the staging that the killer wanted to show.
Right.
That's what they wanted to show. Not like they were moved along the whole property. Here's the kill site. They were moved right there within feet to fit the narrative, to fit what was wanted to be shown.
Right. But my question was, I wonder if, in addition to that, I wonder if there was if the Dropbox stuff had already been located by that point.
Yeah. Well,
and if it had, and they saw, you know what, here's a link going to this property.
Yeah.
We're not going to put that in this because that's a little too much detail.
Yeah. It was around what, 3 weeks when they did the search warrant? It was the 25th they were at Keegan's.
And then wasn't it the 15th they did the search warrant?
It was either the 15th. It was between
March
the 15th
15th.
and 17th. It was between the 15th and 17th.
Right. So my question is, when they found, and I don't know that we have the answer, but when they found that first bit of data from going over into Peru, right? They were in Peru?
Yes. They were in Peru. Keegan's house is Peru.
Yeah, and they found it. So I'm wondering if there was a link back, and they said, well, Ron is one of the many hundreds that did this.
Yes.
So, I'm just,
But after doing the search warrant on his house, getting all the compute, whatever Ron had, he was never charged with any crime related to CSAM.
No, nothing.
Nothing. So
And
that shows me that they came up blank on the CSAM side with whatever they got out of Ron's.
or they found it. They thought it was incidental. I've seen that happen before, where they're like, well.
But think about it this way, right? They felt so strongly it was him. If they found CSAM, they would have hit him hard.
Yeah, they would have hit him.
They would have hit him hard. They really
Right.
they wanted.
They didn't like
look
this
at how
guy,
long
I'm
he
telling
did for
you.
the probation violation.
They did not like this guy at all.
No. And another part of it is the angle of how many people wanted that property that he had too. I don't think that plays into the FBI at all. That's just a separate thing. How his property was wanted also.
Yeah,
but I don't think that falls into the FBI at all though.
I've heard locals talk about how he was just not very well liked. That he was gruff, he was rude to people, and he had his group of people that he would let hunt on the land, and they were not the best people in the world to hang out with.
So true. The one person that he didn't let hunt there, though, was Garrett Kurtz. Garrett said that he wasn't allowed to hunt there.
Yeah, well,
him and his friends. Why not, though? Look at the crowd he had.
He let everybody else hunt there. And
he wouldn't want that, But the whole thing is, he knows the kid, has drug problems. His friends do. He didn't want that on his property. They'd be shooting at his house. I mean, the respective property wasn't there either with Garrett.
The other thing that I wonder too is, if they were zoning in on him so hard, that I wonder if that is part of why TK and KK could have very possibly gotten rid of some things they will never know about.
Bingo. And that plays into why I feel that Vegas trip happened so fast.
Oh, of course.
You had the incident on the 20th with the masked man at that other female's house that gave Anthony shots, the address. And within 24 hours of that incident on the 20th of 2017, they were going on the way to Vegas. And that plays into the other guy that was living in Vegas that also worked with Tony at the plant. And he retired from there also, but he was also retired law enforcement.
Yeah, that
he passed away.
That's a whole nother thing that I think needs to be invested. Investigated. I mean, that's a rabbit hole I've gone down with a couple of other people several times.
I was getting at is that man lived in Vegas when they were there.
Yes.
And he was a very close ally of TK. So
there's
could stuff have been brought there and dumped there? We have no idea.
Surely they went there though.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they were there. Yeah. And when that man passed away, that same day, TK was, he put up a post about it, and he was broken up over it. That was a friend of his.
Oh, I didn't realize the guy passed away.
Yeah, he passed away in 2018. He was retired. He was a retired police officer, and then he retired. He got a retirement. They did 20 years at the plant.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
It's bizarre,
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's just there's so many holes that open up with the clients.
Yeah, there really are. I believe that they are involved in somehow.
Yep.
In this, I don't know who did what.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you.
Since that came out, because I've said from day one that I believe there was some kind of catfishing going on, and everybody was like, "Oh no, it's not catfishing. It's not catfishing." So I didn't say anything to anybody. I was just like,
the title of how it was titled, the Snapchat murders, right in the beginning.
Yeah.
There was so many things leaning that way, and then it was just, to me, it was missed. And was it missed because of how hard the FBI felt this guy looked for an alibi between 2 and 2:30 p.m. We know for a fact 2:07 the picture went up. 2:13 p.m. the girls were approached, abducted, and then murdered.
But
and he fit in that time frame with the alibi.
Having known many people with very heavy drinking problems throughout my life and interacting with them professionally and personally, they will get paranoid and freak out over the possibility that something's coming down on them just because they did something about the alcohol, and it has nothing to, and you can tell them, look, there's bigger fish to fry, man. This has nothing to do with you. But in their mind, oh no, they're coming after me. They're coming after me.
It's so true. It's so true. You're right.
I mean, they are paranoid, and they can be dry drunks. They can be someone that hasn't taken a drop of alcohol in 15 years, but they never got it out of their system. They never dealt with it the proper way, and their attitude is still the same. Nope, they're all coming after me.
It's true. And look at what was going on in Ron's house as he was 75, in his mid to late 70s, the volatile situations that he had going on in his home, It's just, the drinking, there was so much that was playing into what was going on in his home.
Violence, domestic partners, all that stuff. It does make him, probably a violent SOB. But, I've known a lot of violent SOBs that they wouldn't kill two girls.
I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%.
I mean, my grandfather was one, but he wouldn't have lifted his hand. It would have been too much for him to worry about.
My grandfather too. He had an alcohol, issue that he dealt with for many years, and never was violent towards any of us. Never was violent. Never was a violent individual. So it's yes, when my dad was a child, but we didn't know that till years later. My dad never told us. Very sad stuff.
It is very, very. But and I also go back to one other thing I want to say. Mm-hmm. If a person will take a child and bash their head against a hard
toilet
surface
bowl.
to the point, to the point that it bursts out their orbital socket.
Yep.
And that person is
it takes an extremely
a lot of force and anger.
Yes. Yeah. That's why I keep saying that there's violence from one person in that household.
Yep.
One person.
And the other thing, I lied. I said, attorneys, we always said there's only one more thing, but but here's the deal. It's clear to me through everything in the interrogation with Barbara McDonald, or the question of Barbara McDonald and the interrogation, that Keegan or whatever wanted to impress his dad and wanted his dad's acceptance.
Yes, he did.
He did.
You're right.
Got that clearly. So
some of it was the fear of his dad.
Yes.
He wanted to make his dad happy. Some of it was fear, but also he wanted acceptance.
So wasn't it possible that maybe he said, hey, Dad, look what I found. I've got these girls talking to me and blah, 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 blah. And Dad went to that step further that Keegan would never have had the guts to do.
Well, remember, there was the conflict going on. Remember the signing in, signing out, signing in, signing out on two separate devices. There was a fight over who was going to control the conversation that morning.
That's exactly right.
100%.
It could be that Keegan knew that his dad was capable and would do this, and he was trying to get in there and either lock it down, do something, or who knows. But it's too coincidental for him not to be involved.
I agree.
Anyway, that's all I had. Hey, it's a good job you're doing this.
Great. It was great talking to you. I got one more
thanks.
part to go over that I left for the end of the about the girls and looking in his house for the guns and the knives. But also one thing we have to cover is, remember, they had canines when they did the search warrant at Ron's.
That's right. I forgot about that. Did they find anything? Do we know?
We don't know, but if they did,
they didn't act on him.
That's just what I'm getting.
Unless it tied back to unless Ron made some kind of verbal deal we never knew about, because those would be sealed, and there may not be a record of them being sealed.
No, that's true. The whole case is sealed. This was out because of him passing away that it was able to be gotten, but everything else is sealed. The whole case is sealed.
Yeah, well,
but the canines were on scene, and somebody said, "Oh no, they weren't." And I sent the clip because the news clip of the search warrant at his house that day shows the dogs searching they were searching one of the barns.
Yeah,
so they were there. They were there searching.
So it'd be interesting to see what they found.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I had. I'm hopping off.
Awesome. It was great talking to you.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so let's go back. It was great talking. See, now we just had an attorney come on and give you, her points on it. This case really, this case has drawn so many from, different walks of life, and everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to see whoever did this to these girls be arrested, be charged, and justice be served, so these families that part of this case can close for them. You never recover from something like this. It's something that's always going to be there for them, and daily reminders and whatnot. But when justice is served, it just closes that little bit where, they feel that they did their part for their family member who's deceased. We got them, that whole, that needs to happen. So then I wanted to get into this part. I saved this page for the end. It was also discovered that the panties and sock of one of the victims was missing from the crime scene, while the rest of their clothing was recovered. It also appeared the girls' bodies were moved and staged. And again, I feel they were moved feet, not a long distance. The murder scene was the murder scene, and that's where they were staged. And that was to fit what wanted to be portrayed by the killer. Based upon my training and experience, it is common for perpetrators of this type of crime to take a souvenir, or in some fashion, memorialize the crime scene, whether by photos, electronic or digital methods that are then downloaded onto computers, storage devices, tablets, phones, iPad devices, or other electronic devices that store digital data for later viewing, scanning, or copying. So that goes into the whole, what they were looking for that we went over before. But again, they felt the veneer was taken, panties and sock was missing from the crime scene. They went through that creek like hand in hand, turning over whatever was at the bottom of that creek, and those two items weren't found. Liberty and Abby had no visible signs of a struggle or fight. So some say, they didn't fight back. The one thing that isn't in there was, were their hands bound, at the time of abduction. We just don't know. But if your hand is free, if your hands are free, and someone's going to strike you with a knife or a hatchet, and I keep saying a heavily bladed weapon. I believe it could have been a machete, a hatchet, something that has weight to it. Your arm's going to go up, and you're going to have a defensive wound from that. That's just something that wasn't put in here. Now, during the processing, this is important. During the processing of the crime scene, investigators located unknown fibers and unidentified hairs, which may later be used for comparison as similar fibers or hairs. So fibers, hairs, DNA, right? So people questioning, maybe they don't have DNA, maybe they do. We don't know how strong of DNA it is, but that's telling me that there's DNA. Logan owns numerous weapons, including handguns and knives that were observed by LEOs during the execution of the search warrant that took place at his home on March 6, 2017. Logan's home was searched as a result of a probation violation. The search was limited to discovery of firearms and including only his main residence. On February 14, 2017, at approximately 9:20 a.m., Logan contacted his cousin, and that goes into the David Nulf part. So that's the whole search warrant. Just reading one more. Yeah, that's the whole search warrant. That's page to page. That's everything that's in there. So when you back up and just take all of that in, they thought they had their guy, and today we are 5.5 years later, and Ron was never charged. So does anybody want to come up and ask any questions? Anybody have any questions? Got a nice little crowd here. And for anybody that missed part of it, I will download it once it's over and put it on DelphiDocs. Well, DelphiDocs, I think it'll be here too. It'll also be here. Some can't hear it because they don't share their mic. So it'll also be on DelphiDocs YouTube and Analysis of Crime with CD YouTube also. Does anybody have a question? Anybody have anything? I see one. There's a hand. Hey, Connect Brilliant. Just have to unmute your mic.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi. Well, the FBI agent that made that statement that they thought Ron Logan was the one, responsible, and he has since passed. How recent is that comment?
That was from within the last 24 hours. That was
Well,
on Twitter.
Why wouldn't they make that public?
Well, she's retired. I don't know what she's speaking from, how much she knows, if somebody from the case told her. We have no idea. But we know she is factual. She's on News Nation all the time. Her name is Jennifer Coffin-Daffer.
Mm-hmm.
And it was in response. I'll tell you what it was. Let me find it. It was a tweet that said, excellent. This is where the FBI should be focusing their efforts. 9 children saved in a sex trafficking ring dismantled. It was 2 days ago. She put the tweet up, and under it, this person, Lovey of 2, said, "I wonder if the Delphi case could be tied into this." And that's where the response was, and since deleted.
Well, I mean,
yeah, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting that was said.
Yeah, I mean, if I were one of the victims' families, I would be challenging that,
Of course, and the whole thing is, this is a retired. This isn't just a retired FBI agent that is well known since the Gabby Petito case. She did, an on-air interview with Brian Entin. She actually goes on News Nation often with different cases. I believe she spoke about the Mar-a-Lago raid by the FBI. I'm trying to see. I want to say it was in Libby and Abby. It was in the Libby and Abby subreddit, and her statement was, it was 3:18 p.m. 2 days ago. I continue to believe the Delphi murders were committed. Ron Logan, who has since passed.
Yeah, they say don't make statements, don't do this,
Mm-hmm.
to hinder the.
Well, as we see, she deleted. It seems like it was deleted very quick, but the snapshot was taken. And if you go on the Twitter, it shows where it says this author deleted the tweet, so you could see that she did actually delete it. So it is a factual tweet that was deleted. But we just don't know how much she knows. If she's friendly, say it comes back that she's worked in a unit with this, with Nicole Robertson, the agent that wrote the warrant. That's going to be, that's just something that should never happen. What is the reason you put this out there? It's disastrous to do something like this.
Oh, I would.
5.5 years. You have 2 families that are destroyed.
And look how many people. Yeah, look how many people have been involved in this case times 5.5 years. That's life in prison for all of us.
Yeah, it's just something that shouldn't have been said. And what is that's the whole thing. This is the problem is, right? The search warrant for Ron Logan was typed out by an FBI agent. That's why say the FBI wasn't involved, and that's her opinion, and she's a retired agent. That's fine, but your agency wrote this search warrant up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that just shouldn't have happened, and you could delete, but it's already, damage is done. It's there.
Is there any way to contact her?
Her Twitter. She's on Twitter. Jennifer Coffin-Daffer.
Okay.
You want her? I'll give you her spelling if you want the spelling. You want? I'll tell you her. Let's see.
Mm-hmm.
Her Twitter handle is Coffin-Daffer FBI.
Okay.
It's COFFINDAFFER FBI. So she even has the FBI within her profile. You know, wife, proud mama of 3, retired FBI agent, law enforcement network analyst, expert witness, Eagle, and self-defense firearms instructor. It's just, it's something that she should have never, I don't really even understand why she said it. I really
Ron,
don't.
Ron Logan.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what does this say? 12 minutes ago, she put up another one. It says, Bridgeman, please read all the available evidence, clear probable cause. Often prosecutors won't charge unless they believe they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt due to not wanting to hurt their conviction rate and knowing they have one shot due to double jeopardy. RL will get to answer to a greater authority. Wow. That was 12 minutes ago.
That's strange.
I'm taking a snapshot of it. It's on her Twitter from 12. She put that up 12 minutes ago.
Yeah, somebody needs to.
So, yeah, that's weird. Wow. So I don't know, but yeah, she's
maybe
vocal.
Sunny. Maybe Sunny.
There's a video. There's a 1:40 video that she put up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can't click on it. It's just it's actually it's the sketch we're told not to look at, the old sketch. That's the picture she put up, you know? So it's quite alarming. It's quite alarming that she's speaking out about the Delphi case right now.
Yeah, it sounds like she's just using her position to speak out. That's all.
Well, but if you listen to what I just read, she's basically saying that the reason that Ron wasn't charged is because they didn't want to have a failed rate of conviction, not having enough evidence to convict them.
Yeah,
that's what she said 12 minutes ago. It's quite.
But was there a fiber match? See what I mean?
Yeah, no, and we just don't know that. But could she know that?
They would have made it public if that were true. She just speaking out.
It's true. I don't know. It just doesn't look good for this search warrant to be done by FBI. We see how hard FBI was aiming at Ron Logan, and now this woman's speaking out today. And I was actually talking to Zanny last night, the moderator also, and I said I'm probably going to do it tomorrow as long as my wife takes the kids out to the pool for the afternoon. I'll have time to do it because summer's just been very busy. I've been trying to do this for 7 weeks now, 8 weeks, but finally I got it in today. But thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions or anything before we close out the Red Talk? It's good having everybody here. Appreciate everybody being here. DelphiDocs appreciates everybody. I've been on Reddit for a long time and stuff. And let me tell you, when I came across DelphiDocs, that's why I'm actually a moderator now, is because factual information, sticking to the facts. Opinions are one thing, but the way things go out and just go crazy out there in the Reddit world, it's just doesn't help this case. So I'm happy DelphiDocs is here. Everybody, thanks again. Underneath if anybody has any questions that don't want to ask here, you could always send me a direct message. You could email me analysisofcrime@gmail.com. Or, right under the post if you have a question and you want it answered publicly. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate you guys.